Good morning. Right. nice start for 7 minutes. Right, how we do? Where is everybody? Hi Kurt, how's it going? With your legato movement skills, you're so good at not lifting your fingers. It's so awesome, Tim. Thank you. Well, it's practice. That's all it is. Mind you, I did get lucky. I did have a good classical guitar teacher who did say, he said, "Oh, you've got poppers." I went, "What are poppers?" And he went, "Your fingers are popping off the fretboard." I went, "All right, okay." And he's like, "You can cure that." And he just did this exercise. He just went, give a fret for each finger. This is it. Because I distinctly remember the exercise. And then he said, just try and keep your fingers close to the fretboard. So when you descend, it's easier to descend and then concentrate on just keeping that fourth finger controlled and above the string. And that was it. That was what started it. Hi Donald, how's it going? Right, listen guy, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to frame this shot. And I'm just going to go quickly make a hot water bottle. I'll be back in a second. I'll just pop this on for you. So it'll literally be 2 minutes. go. Got the hot water bottle. Right. Probably going to be listening now for a while. Good. So again, you know, if there's any sort of lesson stuff you want to know, we can do that. On a side note for the zoom, what I've done is the zoom on the vertical, there is no zoom. The zoom is actually on the horizontal. So if you're wanting the zooming, you need to be watching on horizontal, because it just isn't working on vertical. Vertical's, that's not really the thing to zoom about on, is it? So I've taken it off. Right, well, I'll just play another track, I think. What was that? That was AI synthwave tracks. That's what these are. What's this in E minor? How's the levels? think I'm about done with that track. Starting to daydream. Yeah, I think my playing's a bit confused, Enzo, at the minute, between hybrid and legato picking. But yes, there is a lot of the Brett Gorsted influence coming in. And I think what's interesting is how far you can push chromatic playing. So I'm starting to do like little moves where I'm starting. In fact, a really good exercise for playing outside is just trying to start with the wrong note on an offbeat and then trying to bring it in. I think we better go to one of our fusion tracks for this. So, that kind of thing. Hi Hawk Productions, how you doing? Hi Rob, I haven't said hi before. Yeah, chromatic stuff, that's what I'm really into at the minute. Really enjoying it. So I got the Brett Garsted chromatic book, and it's a method book, so there's like a bit of reading, which I like. But I like the way he outlines it very, very simply. And alright, the path pickup, wow. I love his Pink Racer X guitar, it's great. Put my thermos flask somewhere. Anyway. So the takeaway that I'm getting from Brett Garsted is when you're adding chromatic notes, you're thinking about really the intervals that you're building around, that you're highlighting. There's a tolerance level for how much sort of chromaticism you can put into a line where it just becomes a chromatic scale and a blur. And really a lot of it's down to your own personal preference, so it really kind of encourages that. But it is down to ear training and tolerance, I find, so you've got to get an ear for it. So like I'll do things like there's a lot of like chromaticism in that. I'm kind of building round, if we're in E minor there, I'm sort of building round that sharp 9. And then we've got this little like chromaticism where I'm kind of crossing over from a minor 7 to a major 7. So you kind of highlight there, you've got the flat 5, which is a great note to start on. Again, there's the 9th enclosure. And then no chromaticism. So it's really good how you can I think like another thing I like to do is I like concentrating when we're talking about sort of the Greg Howe style stuff, where I'll zoom in. A good little exercise is, because I know we've done quite a bit of these 2-on-2 style arpeggios. I Southern Girl. So you get like 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, on the ones, to try and put some notes in there, I think that's a good sort of little exercise. And then go into the arpeggio. So now we've got fragments of the arpeggio but buried in scale notes and chromaticism. So it ends up like a scale, but the advantage we've got of doing it this way is that we're landing on chord tones. And if we're landing on chord tones, then it's going to sound sort of in. Yes, there's, awesome. There are so many people online doing streams. It's very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. We're all competing for space. We're all fighting, land grabbing for digital space and attention. Just passing through. Thanks for the YouTube live streams. Thank you. Please, Matthew, do subscribe. And Johan, how's it going? I think you're in the wrong place requesting Megadeth and Metallica, because do you know why? It's not because I don't like that music. It's perfectly fine. It's because I don't play covers. And there's loads of people just like slogging away playing covers. You might as well go there because they really care passionately about playing stuff that already exists, whereas like I'm just not into that. My philosophy is what could be. Iron sharpens iron. I like that. Yes, absolutely. But you know, I've had a few young people come for lessons and coaching actually. One of them sadly went, you know, at the end of the day, Tim, with me, I merely just copy, I never create. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn to create. So if we're just copying, that's not good, is it? Because music, to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world, tell me, disagree with me if you want, music is a metaphor for how we are feeling. Think about talking therapies, talking to somebody therapeutically about all of your problems and troubles, right? Only get so far. There are going to be things that you won't want to disclose, right? But music, you can disclose whatever you want that's inside you and get that out and unburden yourself through your instrument. But in order to do that, you have to be willing to create. You have to be willing to explore. You have to be willing to embrace uncertainty. Now, that isn't going to happen if I sit here and play Metallica or Megadeth. You help us learn how to be our own best self as a musician. Absolutely. But let's not forget, right, being a musician, okay, a practicing musician, because we're always practicing, the skills are transferable into life. You know, this is why we have what I call the conditions of success. We have to understand what our environment around us is. We have to respond to that environment, but we also have to have an environment that facilitates what we're trying to achieve. Oh, there's Danny. Hi, Danny. We have to have habits dialed in. So once you know how to make a habit and how to kind of, I hate the word discipline, but turn up and do the thing that you love doing or wanting to do on a regular basis, come rain or shine, whether you're feeling it, okay, or not, habits is an important thing, isn't it? It's learning that, you know, the neuroplasticity of your brain can change, and you know, you can form a habit where it's just easy to turn up and do the thing that you're wanting to do, almost unconsciously. Decisions, we have to make decisions all the time. Decision to play somebody else's music is a decision, but after that you're just following whatever's there. When we're improvising, we're learning to make decisions very, very quickly in response to serving the music. So the good thing about improvisation is when it's going well, it's pure insight. But that insight actually comes from your practice. It actually comes from the analysis. It comes down to breaking ideas down, seeing how they work, and then remodeling them and repurposing them into your own, playing your own voice, isn't it? So insight and analysis. We have boredom. Hey, who doesn't get bored? I absolutely love streaming, but sometimes it can get a bit samey. Not your problem, but my problem and myself. And that's how we also move forward, you know. Why am I bored of what am I doing? How can I make it more interesting? What would be a challenge? So we learn about that as well. None of these are musical instrument playing skills. Fear. Okay, fear's a big one, because I know there's like, I've been desperately trying to set up, and there's only been a couple of people do it, one-to-one coaching on setting up and doing live streaming, because I think it's just a brilliant thing, and I would love to see more people just coming out, whether you're playing a cover or not, it's fine, you don't have to improvise, right? But there's what we call the inner game of music, and the inner game is how we think and feel about what we're doing, against what is actually happening. And a really good way to like overcome any sort of fear is through graded exposure. And a great way to grade your exposure to fear is basically here on YouTube, because at the end of the day, if you feel uncomfortable, you can just go, okay, everybody, after 5 minutes, that's it from me today, got a dash, bye. And then you just come on the next day. At the end of the day, the harsh reality is, I mean, I love you all, by the way, nobody cares what you do. And when you first start in a channel, there's going to be hardly anybody there. And if there was loads of people anyway, it wouldn't matter, because, they're scrolling or not paying attention. I mean, the average watch time's like, if you're getting over a minute, it's an absolute achievement. So I wouldn't worry about that. But you're in control, and like if I, so I did a lot of this, and I think YouTube's been the thing that's really improved me, because it's got me over that fear. That fear in your playing is really bad, because it can half your playing ability. You can be practicing as much as you want, and then as soon as you get in front of people, sweaty hands happen, shaking, like panic, and then all the stuff that you've been working on just goes out the window. Like everybody has this, I've had it in spades. I had it actually just recently, believe it or not, because I have, like, because of playing all the time, I have like a trapped nerve in my hand, and I thought my hand was going a bit numb, wasn't. And then the way I got over it was to actually just go on a live stream and prove to myself that there was actually nothing the matter with me, because every mistake I was doing, I was starting to blame on the pinched nerve, and that just wasn't true. So like, what is true? Well, the thing that is true is your last performance, because you're only as good as it, apparently they say. So it's a good benchmark, isn't it? So yeah, fear, graded exposure, very important. And lastly, we have skills. It's not lastly, there's two more, but usually skills is next. And unfortunately, with skills, this is why skill acquisition is a big thing with people, and it's a massive thing on YouTube, where YouTube tutorials, especially music production, they like to offer solutions for problems that you haven't experienced yet. The way to get good is to solve the problems that you're experiencing, not the problems that somebody says, if you're not doing these 5 things, you're doing it wrong. That's just not true. If you're not experiencing the problem, then you haven't got a problem. However, it doesn't matter what we do in life, there's always a problem. You've got to seek those problems. Understand which are the biggest problems that need solving first, and solve those. Good thing's the Eisenhower matrix for working this out. A lot of the time what I'll do, and this applies to, when I'm writing music and playing guitar, is what I'll have a look at is, what's the biggest problem? And then with regards to live streaming, what's the biggest problem that's like basically the most obvious to the listener? And which of the problems are the most obvious to the listener but least effort for me to fix? So that's all the stuff that I'll fix first, because that's like the biggest gains, isn't it? And then I'll start working down the list, getting to the smaller problems, which are usually so small I'm not even going to bother wasting my time with those. And then lastly is community, and community is just keeping your audience engaged with all of the things that we've done. So apart from skills they're learning a guitar, which skills you could apply to anything, those are what are called the conditions of success. And that's part of like how my coaching framework, where the coaching framework I have sort of comes from, is that I'll use that as one of the diagnostic tools. Sorry, I've gone all like technical and psychological. But this is the way that I think about it when people are in the room with me and they're wanting help. Right. break out of the shell, right? Let's have a look. Who's breaking out of a shell? Oh wait, that's actually, does this? Oh, look at that. That works nearly. I don't mind being stuck with you lot at all. It's lovely. Right. This land was built on the home of Alan Holdsworth and Gambali people. Yes, this is more of a community. Good night from good night, Joan, if you're still there. Sayonara, okay. Bye, Matthew. I always pay homage to my influence, but I always write my own stuff. Covers, cash, originals, contentment. Absolutely. You like Marty Friedman method? Take an idea, change it, and do something different. Absolutely. So you see, like Marty Friedman, like me, is a bit of an old school guitarist. He didn't have YouTube, did he? So basically, what used to happen is I would sit there. I'd have a vinyl record, a shrapnel record, let's say Racer X, and I would record that onto my cassette. And have my little like dumpy cassette recorder, but I was really fast at like play and rewind, and I would start learning licks by ear. So it was great ear training. I remember Paul Gilbert talked about this, didn't he? But then what would happen is I would learn something wrong, okay? But actually in learning something wrong, it would actually be something that I developed into my own style. So effectively you were taking an idea, slightly changing it, and then repurposing it into your own creativity. So when you're looking like a player like Marty Friedman, he likes this exotic scales and stuff like that, and I really like the way he does his bends. And I like that idea where you can just take any note that's out of tune and bend it in tune. It's a very distinctive sound. And it'll work on anything, literally. I haven't played this for a while. Let's go to C sharp minor. Like all these notes I'm bending on are out of tune. It's a good way to get confidence playing the wrong note. But that was the wrong note. That was the wrong note. so's that. Hi Perplexity, how you doing? Yeah, pass the notes. So if you anybody on here, please do subscribe. I keep forgetting to mention subscribing. Please subscribe and like, we need 18. I need some more of these. Hi Lords, how long did it take you to get to where you are today? What made you keep pushing as you progress? I'll tell you in a minute. Well, time just flies, doesn't it? There's 6 minutes just gone. All right. So yes, do subscribe to the channel. How long did it take you to get to where you are today? What made you keep pushing as you progress? Like lots of things. So there's probably two main kind of drivers that started this, that accelerated it. And one was when I was at school. Basically, like, I have really bad dyslexia, like it's really severe. I'm diagnosed, and at the time, teachers just thought I was stupid, right? That's what they used to call me. And obviously incredibly damaging to a child saying that. But eventually I went to a school where everybody did music. It was like 75% of the school were musical, and I took piano and guitar lessons. I always wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be like Jakey Lee and Michael J. Fox. So I got lessons, and for some reason I was very, very good. I was able to, read music very quickly. There were no real barriers there, and I was like top of my class, like the only class. So then it was realised, all right, there's something going on here. And luckily, my mum, bless her, she was actually a primary school. She trained as a primary school teacher, and she did a little bit of research, and she found out that possibly I'm showing signs of dyslexia. And sure enough, I got tested, and I was that. And as soon as that happened, then I had lessons, and basically I was re-educated. But because I had dyslexia and because I was different and I struggled academically in the class, like the other kids, it was really horrible. I just decided that whatever is to do with mainstream subjects, like getting a normal job, isn't going to happen, and 100% I'm going to be a musician. I made that decision at the age of like 8 or 9. And there was nothing going to stop or change to do that. So off I went, and as soon as I left school, I had a little record deal, and I had my first album out pretty much, and did A-level music, played professionally, didn't have to do a degree, went straight on to a master's course, which is really interesting because I messed up all my school exams, right? But then when I went back to university, I was too advanced to get on a regular bachelor's degree, so they immediately put me on. I had to do a proposal, then just give me it. But then I had a scholarship on a funded master's, so I was actually paid for a master's, which was amazing. And then I did a second one after that. And I was really getting into the academic side of music, and then I was then about to move on to a PhD, but then decided I wanted to live life a bit in the real world, hence becoming a therapeutic musician, and that's like the day job. So because the job that I have is highly creative, and I get to play and write music all day long, and it's like a wonderful thing, that keeps me going. But I think the other thing that could, which is a little bit of a sad story, I'll not go into it too much, but actually when I was 16, 17, after I left school, unfortunately my brother, who had really bad asthma, he had an asthma attack and he died. And that obviously had a big impact. And again, that kind of reinforced the thing of we only have one life, and therefore I'm not going to compromise on anything that I want to do that's going to make me happy, that's going to make me lead a good life. So because of his death, that also pushed me into, in a good way, staying with the guitar. So there was that. And then now, after sort of playing in bands and then becoming employed by the NHS. So my job is it's a really weird job. It's like a music therapist, but I have a really big caseload, and the way that there's no particular one way that I have to engage with clients. I can use it by any means, literally. So whether it's guitar, singing, music technology, production. I do intensive interaction. That's one of my specialities. One of my favourite things to do is intensive interaction. What intensive interaction is basically I'll work with patients who have severe learning difficulties. So adults, and they'll have the IQ of a 2-year-old. And obviously life can be very frustrating for them. And pretty much when you're in that situation, your life is you being told what to do, and it can be frustrating, and sometimes when you feel that your needs aren't being met, that can lead to escalation. And there's only so many drugs you can give people to keep them calm. So one of my jobs is to build up a therapeutic relationship with somebody, and then just do music sessions, improvising. So these guys, some of them will be non-verbal. And what I'll do is I'll just play music games with them. I'll play music, and they'll start kind of making noises or body motions, and it becomes a game. And at that point, what's actually happening there is they're in control, and that's very, very, I know it sounds simple, but it's very, very empowering for that person to then have somebody, because when that's happening and you're doing something, there's a cause and an effect. You're actually in control, and that actually regulates mood. So that's like one of my special things. So I do that quite a lot. So there you go. So there is a bit of a story. Huey Lewis, who keeps that ping pong ding? Right, of course, it's you. Right. Questions and answers and words, yes, because like music is a form of communication, isn't it? It's a metaphor for how we're feeling, and it mirrors language. It mirrors. It's like call and response, isn't it? Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, although music is hard, struggling, there's doubt, there's fear, there's uncertainty, right? But I think if you stick with it, and you just go with it, you will get somewhere. It will, you know, it will provide for you and your family. Do you know what? Embarrassingly, riffs. I should know more about Sean Lane, but I don't. I know who he is, and I listen to him, and I just remember him doing those wild. You know, all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Yeah, so that's the thing, Kurt. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad he's got his guitar and playing it. It's a brilliant thing. You know, because then you can get your guitar, you can jam along with him, and you love that. Excellent. Right, now, you know what? I need to find... Right, I need to find my thermos flask with my coffee in 2 seconds, right? I'll be back. I'll just nip up the... I'll just frame this. Right, 2 seconds. So I do need my coffee. And it's here somewhere. I did make it. Ah, here it is. Got it. Right, and I think I'm going to have to get a new thermos flask because this is just ridiculous. I make it every morning. I'll order one today. Yeah, so no, I should spend more attention to Sean Lane, but I think it's just that. And like I watched a bit of his REH video and it was so difficult at the time I couldn't do any of it, so that put me off. In particular, it's that cross. I remember he was doing scales that were groups of 5 and crossing fingers, and I found that incredibly difficult to do, so I just kind of ran away from it. Which I now do instead. Actually, I might come back to it. I'm going to have a look at Sean Lane, everybody. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's just that crossing your fingers over that, which I do now. Lydian Dreams, let's give it a go. E Lydian. Oh god, right, hold on. Well, that's it. That was fun. That was alright, that. Not my usual key to play in. Lydian mode's great though. Alright, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. I used to have a subscribe button, but I don't now, so I'll have to reintroduce it. Hey, anybody want to ask anything? Speaking of economy, I wanted to play repeating fourth note Zakk Wylde style phrases. There aren't any there are no cons. There's only things to gain with economy picking. People say it's more softer or something, or you have less control. That's just not true. The thing about economy picking, to be good at economy picking, right, you have to be good at alternate picking. This is the thing, because one of the caveats. So when Frank Gambale did his first video, he just really talked about doing economy picking where everything you did was strictly economy picking, which meant that to turn a lick round you had to have an even number of notes. So if I remember correctly, he plays like this G major scale, where it's I'll zoom in for the horizontal. So you'd be going down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, down, up. But when he got here, he would play this. So like everything was economy picking. And then to turn this bit round, you had to put a chromatic note in. Which is fine, but the problem with that is when you're improvising, like I don't want to have to think about, I'm going in this direction, I need to do basically an even number of notes. It's just like, that's just doing my head in. So I kind of gave up on that, but then I realised watching Rick Graham that, and then going to a lesson, because he actually helped me with my economy picking, that what you can do is if you're good at picking, which I was, and you've got an inside motion, then you don't have, those rules don't apply to you, because what you can do, so the problems are going to start here when you're turning the lick round, because you're going to go down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, inside, up. So we've got that, which is a guitarist's nightmare. So you do need to have good alternate picking. That's the caveat if you're going to kind of freely just do that. But of course, like, you know, 2 notes per string you can't economy pick. You can start it, but everything after that's like up, down, up, down. But we're picking in the same direction, so that's fine. So I think there's like loads to be gained from economy picking. I mean, that's why I did it. In fact, I remember one of the reasons was I noticed that Thomas was really good at picking like really odd like groupings of notes and like having different numbers of notes on different strings, so like, you know, 3s, 1s, 2s, and he can kind of just get round it. If you watch his wrist motion, he has really good slanted picking technique, so he's able to like flip in a whipping motion almost, just pick over the strings. So I wanted to do that, and I had a bit of success doing it, but it was very thinky. I was having to really think about like the moves, and I don't want to have to think about technique. I just want to think about the music, and that's it, and the notes I'm going to play, not about like, well, this is a difficult bit coming up. So the way to kind of get around that was to use economy picking, because that way everything's just in one direction. You're chunking the information, aren't you? You're taking something complex and flattening it down and making it into smaller chunks, which is better for thinking about things quicker. Do I write? Yes, I write on piano. I just go on and start playing synths. I'm assuming it's like that, the Zach Wild thing. That's a good question, actually. Very good. Good, yeah. So inside motion, that's what you need to focus in on. And I mean, you can even do things like you're getting about with alternate picking, and then for bigger runs you use an economy. So everybody finds descending runs of alternate picking quite difficult. That's me alternate picking. And that's the economy. So there's not much difference between the two things. And the economy one's more reliable. But like literally I'll economy pick everything, like everything's like even when I'm doing Legato now, it's like economy. There's no effort, and I can control the sound of the pick. All right. Been a bit of a journey, hasn't it? All right. Thanks, everybody. I think we've got a couple more minutes, so I'll probably pour another. I think that's my playing done for this morning, anyway. For this bit of the morning. So if there's anything else, we've got a few minutes left. Otherwise, I'm going to enjoy my coffee. Oh, and if you like this channel and you want to support it, why not become a member? That's the other thing, because that's good, because all of the money that comes in on membership, I reinvest into the stream. So at the minute, the latest thing is I'm looking at, with the next lot of streaming money, looking at getting an Osbot camera. I have got a DJI, but I'm wanting an Osbot because the object tracking on it's really good. And what I want to do is have like tracking on my hand that's really reliable. So you can see my hand moving up and down the fretboard. And that camera would go here. And then that's all its sole purpose would be. But it's an Osbot Tail Air that I need to get. They're about $1,000. $1,000 odd. And I will get one. So please do, if you want, become a member, but don't feel under pressure because everything's for free anyway here. You can just come on here and ask a question, can't you? Costs nothing. Yes. Alright everybody, so that's it. I'm not streaming tomorrow because I'm in physio. Getting these guitar injuries sorted. So I'll not be here tomorrow morning. Might do something at the weekend though. You never know. I quite fancy doing like a little Saturday stream maybe, because it's a good way. It's a nice way to spend your Saturday. Other than that, I'll be back on. Like next week, I'm hoping I can do quite a few streams because I need to sort of kind of get things back. Because the algorithm's not trusting me. It's like the vertical streams are like, well, we're not putting you out to many people. So not to worry. And that's it from me. All right. Bye everybody. Right, where's the off button? There it is. Finish. See ya.